Hey, my name's Sarah and I help women reclaim their confidence and take back the time and energy that bad body image has stolen from you. I just interviewed one of my past clients, Viv, who was in one of my first cohorts of my group coaching program, the Dream Girl Circle. And the reason I'm interviewing Viv is because even though the program ended a while ago, she's still maintaining so many of the changes that we made in that work together. When Viv first came to me, she was really struggling to have consistent routines. She was feeling really stuck in her life, and she just needed a community of women who understood where she was at with wanting to have stronger body image and take care of her body. When we finished our work together, Viv was feeling not just super confident in her body, but also had really come out of her shell as someone that previously identified as shy. She's one of the sweetest clients I've ever had, and talking to her and catching up was so nice, but let's dive into it. You can see for yourself the power of this kind of work and the power of the Dream Girl Circle.
I will just start this off by saying thank you so much for being here. It's like a podcast interview. I'm so happy. We talked in 6 weeks, maybe. It feels like longer.
October. Yeah,
it's crazy. So it's perfect amount of time for us to talk about your life since we were working together. You were in my group program, Dream Girl Circle. I work with people one-on-one too. So it's gonna be really good for anybody who's considering doing either of those with me, because you're somebody that has worked closely with me. We've had a lot of one-on-one conversations in the group calls, in our group chat, and private messaging too. You were somebody who used the voice memo feature, so I loved that because you get so much more out of it. And yeah, we had some really nice conversations at the end of our work together too, because you were just feeling really positively about where you were in life. So before we dive into all of the amazing changes that you made, I would love if you could share a little bit about what life was like when you first reached out to me, when you booked that first discovery call. Where were you at? What was hard? What were you frustrated with? And what were you trying to change?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this in our discovery call, and we talked about that I've been following you for a couple of years now. So I've been seeing your content and like seeing all the things that you do. And the Dream Girl Circle felt really exciting to me because it was like this group aspect. And I'm not a super outgoing person. So I was like, oh, what a great way to get out of my shell. And I was going into my third year of college. I just knew that I wanted to build something more positive for myself in what was coming to be a pretty stressful time. And I originally came from a pretty small town. When I went to college, it was a culture shock of a whole world of different things. And I realized that there was so much more than this single line story I had seen. And then especially like surrounding body image, like I grew up doing theater, and that's a pretty toxic world in and of itself, which I pursued a little bit here in college, and the same thing persisted. I was done with that, and I was ready to take like a new step with that in my life. And like I said, just build that kind of positive place in my life and reach out and meet new people from all around the world. I think we had someone from Canada, which is like super cool. But yeah,
the Dream Girl Circle is really appealing to a lot of people because it's comprehensive in the sense that we talk about a lot of body image stuff, and we also talk about how it affects like your social life, how confident you feel putting yourself in new situations. It's perfect for you. But we also talk about like food mindset and having a consistent exercise practice. And I remember chatting with you specifically because you're super busy. You're in a full classes, so much going on. But yeah, what do you feel like was challenging in the beginning as far as like your healthy habits?
I feel like just keeping that kind of consistency, or like when I would not keep the consistency and like struggling with the guilt of that. And so I think that the Dream Circle really helped me with that because I could have this like weekly check-in, and then there was the like group chat, and we would do those, not only the meetings but the Friday check-ins, which was like super helpful because it kept me accountable and it kept me thinking about like actively thinking about these things. And before that, I think I just really struggled with the accountability, not only for just what's pictured as good, but taking care of myself and making sure that I'm doing what's good for me rather than just what's good. It kind of helped reframe that in my mind, especially in the movement section, like when we talk about rest, how that can also be part of your movement practice, which I think is something really beneficial that I would have never truly considered before that. So
yeah, absolutely. That's something that I know we talked a lot about on that specific call, all about movement. And I talked with a lot of the girls separately on too, which is feeling guilty for needing rest. But when we don't rest, when we deprive ourselves of that, we get so exhausted or so burnt out that we completely fall out of the healthy habits that we're trying to have, whether it's like cooking meals at home or working out consistently in between your classes, things like that. So yeah, it sounds like you were fed up, honestly, with starting new goals and then not being able to maintain them, or feeling guilty on the days that you didn't have time for it and you needed
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah, essentially, I had felt pretty like stuck in that for quite some time. And this was going to be the first time I was actually living on my own and not like
Mhm.
living on campus and like having a meal plan. And so I knew that was probably going to come with a lot of problems. Trying to break up those like diet culture like thoughts in my head of, oh, you can do so many different things. And especially when we talked about like meal planning and like building grocery lists of like things that you
Mhm.
love that are still going to provide you those nutrients that you need. That was something really big. That was like one of the most exciting things. I remember being so excited to tell my roommate about that. Oh, this is what we did. Could look at this. This is so cool. So definitely was just like ready for that kind of change. And then it lined up perfectly with the start of our school year. So it was like, it was a lot to start, and I'll admit, starting a new school year, getting back into work, getting back into the world of school, and then having this as well. But I don't think I would have changed it, especially knowing that these habits are like sticking around even this far into
Yeah.
almost being at finals and the next semester and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're back in another crazy period of you
Yeah.
have to go on break for Thanksgiving. You have finals coming up, you're finishing a
Yeah.
semester, and these things are still sticking. But yeah, I was just chatting with another new client yesterday, and it reminded me of this because I remember you being a little bit nervous seeing the dates of the program when we were starting, when we were going to meet every week, but knowing that you needed it still, like putting it off any longer just wasn't going to help you either. And I think there's a lot of resistance we feel a lot of times to find like the perfect time to start something like this. And the reality is that if you had waited for maybe what felt like the perfect time for you, which was like a less crazy time, it would probably be maybe say like on your winter break in December, like in a couple of weeks. But that means you would have spent this entire semester, that many more months and weeks and days of your life, not feeling so secure in your body image, not feeling confident. I remember you messaging us and being like, I went home, I told my roommate about this meal planning structure,
Yeah.
about the grocery list generator that we do to build really satisfying but nutritious meals, because you're experiencing what a lot of people are like in college for the first time and then just in adulthood, which is like cooking with somebody else. Like you and your roommate make meals together, or you make meals for each other and you switch off, and it's like a partnership in that way. I hear that
Yeah.
from clients all the time of, I'm cooking for me and my partner, it's hard to grocery shop for just two people, or it's hard to make meals that we both like. And you found so much consistency in your nutrition, but also in the satisfaction and the excitement you got from cooking at home through that process. So yeah, really beautiful to see so many changes that you made. And I feel like when we were in the program, you consistently messaged in the group chat, and I think they felt like smaller wins to you, but being someone that was observing this, seeing every week you were able to show up and make small changes, like they added up to so much in our work together, and it was so badass. And then you got to the end and you sent me this voice memo after they did, like just saying thank you, which was so cute, so sweet. But you were like, I'm blown away by how much is different and how much I've changed. And I'm like, girl, I'm not.
That's so true. Like looking at all the small things, like even I went back even a couple days ago and I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, like I did that. Yeah.
It's so cool. So, one of the things I want to talk about, which I think is just super important for people to hear and to see, and I'm sure you've shared this with your roommate, with friends, with people in your life, but how these changes have lasted for you, because we're not in the program anymore. Like you and I have not been working together for a good chunk of time, and some things have still really resonated with you. You've maintained a lot of habits. And I think one of the really important parts of the program that you learned that I teach is that so much of maintaining those habits long term is about building in the perfect balance of discipline and flexibility. And we talked a lot about that with knowing when to take rest or when to move your body, identifying what needs you want to honor with that practice. Same thing with food, with getting out of your comfort zone with your body image. But tell me what you feel like is so different now in your life today than it was, say, 3 or 4 months ago before we had ever worked together. Like what changes wouldn't have been possible without this process?
I think just in general, I'm a lot less hard on myself, especially like I said, coming from like a theater, that kind of like performance background, like movement was so tricky. And so I haven't been like super into this strict movement regimen, which I found has been like the best for me, especially in such a stressful time. I'm in class 4 days a week at work and I'm still trying to make a social life. That has been like not being so hard on myself about that, but still like honoring, oh, I need to go take a walk, or I need to take a nap, or I'm going to be a horrible person for the next couple of hours. And then I said the nutrition was really beneficial for me because I think that and I'm sure a lot of people relate to this, the diet culture mindset is so heavily enforced everywhere, time, everything.
How do you think that was showing up in your life before this?
Definitely living like with my parents. Because I like live with them in the summers. My mom is very influenced by diet culture.
Raise your hand if
And
you have a mother heavily influenced by
yeah,
diet.
I had to reteach myself some things that like were scary for me. I know someone else mentioned this too, but like, why would I get the bread that tastes bad? I'm just gonna get the bread.
Yeah,
And that was something that helped a lot, I think, was trying to like reframe my mindset around food and using it as fuel, but also having that like comfort and like understanding the different types of hunger and like where those come from, and that it's okay to maybe like stress eat every once in a while, but acknowledging that's where it's coming from and what are other ways that we can address this that isn't necessarily binge eating or like restricting. That one was really beneficial. And I still have to have those little like checks with myself every once in a while. Oh, am I doing this because this is what I want or because what I have been told this is what I want?
What does that dialogue sound like?
I really just have an internal talk with myself. I know we also talked about this just like jokingly, or not even jokingly, but like Diet Coke. Like I love Diet Coke. There's just some about it. But then I had to really evaluate. I'm like, is it because I was told I like Diet Coke by the diet culture industry, or do I actually really like it? And spending time and then like it. Yeah, so I was just like trying to talk myself through it and be like, okay, what is it about it that you like? What is it? Does it feel good? Would it be more satisfying than drinking a regular Coke? And like living the college life, like I don't like go out to eat. I do every once in a while, but it's a little like treat every once in a while to
oh my gosh,
have
a
those
fountain
things or
soda,
like
they taste so much better than regular.
So much better. Yeah. So I think just like having those like kind of talks with myself just help, especially the like conversation of what is it about it that I do like? Is there anything I don't, and why don't I? And is that going to override the fact that I want to get it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Yeah. And it brings up a really important thing that a lot of people experience when I work with them, which is like dealing with both of those thoughts being there. Like, for example, anybody that enjoys running, like I want to go on a run because I know that it's really good for my mental health and it's good stress relief and it's a good way to get outside and all of these really beneficial results we can get from it that have nothing to do with our body. And having that thought there, of that diet culture thought that's in place there, that programming of, oh yeah, and running's a really like efficient way to burn calories. And it's not so much forcing yourself to never have those thoughts again. It's just choosing to act on the ones that honor your body image and your self-love more than the ones that would put you in a disordered mindset. Because when we shit on ourselves for having those thoughts, we shame ourselves for it. It doesn't actually help us release them versus what you're describing, what we've learned in the program. We talked so much about self-talk and how to work you through that, is you now have the skills to just talk back to them, to hold space for them, to show yourself compassion and ask yourself like, why do I feel this way about myself? More with curiosity than with self-deprecation. And that gives you the space to release them, to change those patterns. Oh, okay, I learned this when I was younger, that Diet Coke is better than regular Coke, or running is better than walking, or whatever it is, these beliefs we have of us never doing enough and always needing to be smaller or eat less. This is where this comes from. And I can recognize that I'm a grown-up now. I'm living on my own. I can take care of myself. And that means that I have more tools at my disposal to think differently and do things differently. And I've really seen that come out in you through this process.
Yeah, I think starting this at such a shift, like beneficial, like shift in my life was probably like, one of the biggest reasons there were so many changes made. Because I was already going into it with so much, okay, I'm going to live on my own. Like I'm going to care for myself. I'm going to have all these things in my life change. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I have one more question for you that I think is just a beautiful way to imagine and appreciate all of the changes that you've made and that you've been able to stick with and keep working on post-program. But if you picture your future self, whether it's when you're 80 years old or when you're 25, when you're old like me, whatever it is, picture yourself farther in the future. What do you think is essentially the cost of you having not done this work? Like, how will your life be better and different now that you've started this journey, when you did and how you did?
I think it's so beneficial that I am so much younger. Like I'm at such an early point in my actual adulthood that I have so much time to build up these habits. And I saw something one time that said, when you're 80 years old, you're not going to look back and think about, oh, how many calories were in that piece of cake, you're going to remember that it was your 21st birthday and you were so excited to be with your friends.
Oh.
And I'm hoping that's the kind of like life that I have, and like being able to go back and look at the workbook, because you get to keep that, but just have those tools and I can work through it anytime and keep in touch with these girls, and they're going to be able to be there to support me as well. And eventually I'll be able to incorporate like my family, and then if I like get a partner in the future, have like those kind of connections that I can incorporate them into that part of my life too, and have this community of people who understand and are probably affected in similar ways,
Oh yeah.
even if they don't know it, and they can also like have these tools that are so exciting for them. And then we talked in my class about co-regulating, being with people who are like, you can sympathize with them and like work with each other. So it's like going to be really exciting to, I think, see that and work with that.
Yeah.
And then I just think, I don't know, like I'm already like so proud of myself for doing this. I think I don't think that's ever going to go away. So especially 5 years, like 20 years in the future, I think I'll look back on this and like, yeah, you did that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a really big turning point like in your life that you've already been able to identify. But something I'm curious about too is because in our group there was 8 of us in our circle, and you weren't the youngest. There was someone younger than you, but maybe 2 younger than you. There was also a couple women that were 15 to 20 years older than you. I think 18 years older than you was the oldest in our circle. That's almost like double your age.
Yeah.
So there were people in the circle who were married, people who were single. There were people that were twice your age, or people that were the same age as you. Looking at how different everyone's backgrounds were, you mentioned it's so valuable to do this work at your age, but what was it like watching people that were a decade and a half older than you doing this for the first time as well?
It was really inspiring. I think that probably a common fear is that we're just going to get stuck in our ways and not be able to ever change. And so seeing these people be so invested in themselves and not have that mindset of being like, I'll never change, making that step. And it was just super exciting. And especially since we still keep in touch, like being able to see like their wins still happening is like super cool and super inspiring. And I don't know, it's just so badass. I think anything you do for yourself is going to be super exciting and super fulfilling at any age. And I was just constantly inspired by everybody in the group, because that's such a scary thing. I know firsthand that was like scary, but it worked out great. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear that all the time from people, like booking that first discovery call with me, sending me that first message. It's, hey, I'm even just interested in working with you, whether it's in the group or one-on-one with me. Like, it's scary. It's a really scary step, not because it's scary to send a message, but scary because you're admitting to yourself, probably for the first time, that you need to make a change, that you've tried everything else, that you're fed up with it, that you're sick of feeling the way you have. And that's super exciting. I see it as exciting whenever I'm on a discovery call. I'm like, it's so exciting. But there's also a lot of fear in that, because we have that fear of, what if I fail? What if I can't do it? What if I can't make changes? And I think having our group structure, especially, and the private messaging with me that you had, like the messaging we did back and forth, that's that support and that community that so many people need to start making the change. And I think that's why a lot of people end up working with somebody like me. So I'm so freaking proud of you. I didn't get to ask you too many details about your dating life, but when we were working together, I just don't think it's any coincidence that you were going on some really fulfilling dates with a person, regardless of where it goes with that person. You felt really grounded and really confident in how you were showing up in that relationship. And that's also just badass. So I just had to mention, but is there anything else that you want to share with anybody that's maybe thinking about taking a leap, reaching out to me, or working in a group program, working on their self-love? Anything that you think is really valuable to hear if you're in the beginner phase or at square one?
I think I mentioned this in my like post group survey, but if you're thinking about it, you should just do it, because you're probably not going to regret doing something that's going to change your life for the better. And I always think that an investment for yourself is something worth investing in. And especially the Dream Girl Circle specifically, like creating this like new community of people is super exciting. If you're a really community-based person, or like me, and you like wanted to put yourself out there, I just think it was just so exciting, and I don't regret it. So I highly recommend anything.
I love that. Okay. This has been wonderful. It's been so nice to chat with you, catch up, and thank you. And I'm so happy that you took this leap for yourself, because now we get to know each other. I've seen so much growth in you, and we get to stay in touch, and I get to continue to hear the growth. I'm so proud of you. I hope you're proud of yourself.
I am very proud of myself.